The main event, bantamweight title on the line. Aljamain Sterling looking to make his fourth successful title defense as he is challenged by Sean O'Malley. He is a minus 250 betting favorite. Sean O'Malley coming in at plus 205. Of course, as we do this show, the lines are not out on FanDuel. If they do come out towards the end of the show, we'll give a quick breakdown of those FanDuel salaries. But over on DraftKings, Aljamain is 8,900 and 𝗕𝗂𝗄 is 7,300. And, and Pete, I've talked about this throughout, the past couple of years with Sean O'Malley. Is I think that Sean and the people around him have done an excellent job of giving him the right matchups. But now he's really in a situation where stylistically this is that bad matchup. But one of the things I did find interesting this week, listening to Ray Longo, of course, the head coach of Aljamain Sterling, he goes, look, we don't think that O'Malley is the hardest hitter we have ever faced. But what we do think is what could give us problems is the length and accuracy that O'Malley brings.
Yeah, it's the range, it's the timing, it's the speed of O'Malley that I think separates himself from the entire division, to be honest. His striking is just on a completely different level. It's his grappling defense that hasn't been tested against some of the best guys. Like if he had a matchup against 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵, leading up to this fight, we would feel a lot more comfortable one way or another against Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling's a guy who spams punches and kicks wildly on the feet, gets you to engage with them, and then shoots takedowns at a high volume. He's somewhat inefficient with his takedowns, but when he does get you down, he's very, very good at controlling you. He backpacks a lot of people. He can go out there and submit Corey Sandhagen very, very quickly in round one. He could do the same thing here against Sean O'Malley. We've also seen him just be willing to control and just out-grapple and outmaneuver Henry Cejudo, Petr Yan. So I do think from a stylistic standpoint, if you put out everybody's skills, they would lean towards Aljamain Sterling in this matchup just because we have Sean O'Malley relatively untested in Aljamain Sterling's strengths. I do think that timing's everything. It's something I've been talking about for a long time. And I do think that the UFC would love nothing more than to see Sean O'Malley get the win. Of course. At the end of the day, these guys are going to fight. And it's going to, the big octagon, I think, will help Sean O'Malley here. If this was an Apex card or a smaller venue, I wouldn't like it. I think Sean O'Malley needs to be on his bicycle, moving around. He talked about it. Cannot let Sterling grab you. A lot easier said than done. I'm actually just from a DFS construction standpoint, I'm always going to lean towards the grappler. So I'm probably going to be 60-40 leaning towards Aljamain Sterling from a DFS standpoint. But I will tell you that I am actually picking Sean O'Malley to upset and win the bantamweight title over Aljamain Sterling. So I know it's a hot take, and from a skill standpoint and a resume standpoint, it doesn't make sense. But I do think that Marlon Moraes showcased that on the feet, if this is on the feet, there are plenty of openings and plenty of mistakes that Aljamain Sterling makes. In the matchup against Petr Yan in their first encounter, Petr Yan was absolutely destroying Aljamain Sterling. And I do think that given the correct game plan and Sean O'Malley's preparation at one of the best gyms in the world, one of the most underrated gyms, the MMA Lab, and everybody associated with it, I think that he's going to be very, very prepared. So I'm actually picking Sean O'Malley to win the main event. I feel like you might be on the opposite end of that, but from a DFS construction standpoint, I'm basically targeting both sides because I feel like the fight will not go the distance. Somebody's finishing somebody in this matchup. Aljamain Sterling could go out there and submit him relatively quickly. But I do think that O'Malley finds that KO shot.
Yeah, I'm on the other side in this matchup here, Pete. And look, you bring up a lot of great points. And, I think one of the things when I think about the question marks heading into this fight, and more of the question marks I would say I have on the Aljo side of the equation. First up, it comes to what is this weight cut like? We have seen him struggle to get down to 135. He's talked about leading up to this fight that, 99.9% this will be his last fight at 135 pounds, and he plans to move up to 145 pounds. And I do believe that Aljo may be the most disrespected champion champion in UFC history. And I think a lot of that has to do with how he won the title. But the fact is, if he gets this to the ground and he gets on the back of Sean O'Malley, he may only need one takedown. And that, to me, like when I was watching the Countdown show, there was two takeaways I had. The first takeaway was there is literally zero mention of what Sean O'Malley is doing to get ready for the grappling aspect. And you being the fighter here, I think you know this very well, and the countless conversations I've had with fighters, is how much of this camp was about the potential adversity that Sean O'Malley is going to have to deal with. The other thing that stuck out to me was his head coach, Tim Welch, and he said, he goes, a big emphasis for them has been, this is a 25-minute fight. You cannot go out there and blow your energy in 10 minutes. You got to be ready for 25 minutes. That, to me, was a little bit of a thing. Look, if you're playing 20 lineups, 100 lineups, 150 lineups, you want to get to both sides of this equation. But as you always say, Pete, here on the show, your fear is the third-round finish, because a third-round finish is not ideal in these 5-round fights. Over on Prize Picks, I will tell you right now, I like the less than 65.5 significant strikes on Sean O'Malley. I like the under 16.5 fight time minutes on Sean O'Malley as well. Like, if you're going to attack this fight on Prize Picks, that's where I would go on Prize Picks. And like I say, on Prize Picks, I know everyone wants to chase those 5-player cards. Do 2 to 3. That is going to really allow you to make a profit over on Prize Picks.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I do think that if people don't know who Tim Welch is, he was a damn good fighter himself, and he's a very good grappler. So I will tell you, as a striker, every camp that Sean O'Malley's been preparing, he's always been preparing on get-ups and takedown defense and getting out of horrible positions. And now they really, really emphasize it for this camp and for the past 10 months or so leading up to Aljamain Sterling. Does that necessarily just completely eliminate the chances of getting taken down? No, but I do think that you can make your opponents pay. You can work back to your feet a little bit more, a little bit better. I would really love to see footage of Aljamain Sterling and 𝗵𝗵 grappling, because I think like that would be like some of the best, film to watch. And also I would love to see like Aljo deal with the adversity of somebody getting back to his feet, so often. Not saying that Sean O'Malley can do so, but it would just give me a little bit of insight where I could see, okay, well, in this situation, perhaps we have O'Malley, being able to capitalize. I don't think O'Malley's grappling is that bad. It's something that he's been working on forever, but I just think that Aljo is so strong in that skill set that it just doesn't matter. Like, he went out there and made quick work of Corey Sandhagen, who's now all of a sudden Corey Nurmagomedov against Rob Font. You know what I mean? So styles make fights. I don't like the idea of him, talking about moving up. I do think that cutting a lot of weight, can lead to a weaker chin, obviously, and somebody with the speed, the timing of Sean O'Malley can capitalize on something early. So I'm saying a first or second round KO for Sean O'Malley is my call. But the main reason why I'm getting behind O'Malley this week is I don't like a lot of underdogs. So like I'm really like convincing myself that this is possible and this is going to be it, because I look on the rest of the card, I'm like, what am I going to give it, favorites for every matchup? I don't see many underdogs coming through this week, and I've kind of had a gut feeling O'Malley does it, so I'm just going to ride with it.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. A couple of questions. I mean, look, everyone's asked about ownership. Look, I expect both these guys to be 1-2 in terms of highest owned on this card, but more people are going to want to get to Aljamain Sterling because of the grappling upside that he has in this one. Anthony, I would not stack the main event, and the reason I would not stack the main event is I don't think this fight hits round 4. I don't know if this fight hits round 3. I think it's either Sean O'Malley catches Aljamain Sterling, like you said, within 10 minutes, or Aljo gets on the back. And look, if he gets on the back of Sean O'Malley, I think it's over.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if he'll even want to submit him. He might want to pound him out, just have the hooks in and flatten him out and pound him out. So, yeah, it's not a stacking week for me. It would have to be a 25-minute striking affair in which I would be heavily favoring Sean O'Malley.